In the last two videos, we looked at how to make grids like this. But what if we want a grid like this that is radially symmetric about the center of the canvas? To do this, we need to learn a couple of new functions such as translate and rotate. So every canvas has something known as the state of the canvas. The two main things that define the state of the canvas is where is the origin and how many degrees is the canvas rotated about the origin. So by default, the origin is always in the top left and the canvas is usually not rotated about the origin at all. So we can think of it as it's rotated 0 degree. But this is something that we can change using the functions translate and rotate. So first let's take a look at the function translate. It takes two values, x and y, which is the x and the y value by which we want to move the origin on the canvas. So let's say we want the origin to be in the center of the canvas. We can say translate 200, 200 and the origin will move to the center. And let's say we want the canvas to rotate by 45 degrees. We can actually go ahead and say rotate 45 and our canvas will actually end up looking like this. So what happens now is if we say rectangle 0, 0, 50, 50, it will end up drawing this rhombus, it will end up drawing this diamond shape that you see here as opposed to what we would have usually got, which is a rectangle on the top left. So let's go ahead and try this out in code. So to start off with, let's just draw a rectangle at 0, 0, with a width and a height of 50 and 50. Now we haven't done anything to the state of the canvas, it's at its default. So the rectangle is in the top left. But let's say we want to change the state of the canvas now. So I'm going to say translate and I want to move the origin to the center. So that's 200, 200 within the translate function. Now when we press play, you'll see that the rectangle's actually moved because the origin which used to be here is now here. And on top of this, we can also go ahead and rotate the canvas. We can say rotate 45. Now one thing to note is that P5 expects this value in radians and not in degrees. So if we're more comfortable with degree, we can go ahead and say angle mode degrees over here in setup, and that will ensure that anytime we give it an angle, it's read in degrees. Okay, if we press play, you'll notice that the rectangle is now rotated by 45 degrees. But what if now I want the rest of the code I write after this, I want my canvas to be back in the default state that it was, where the origin is in the top left and the angle of rotation is 0. So to do this, we have to do something called a push and a pop. So we have to write a push here and a pop here. What this means is that this new canvas state that we have, where the origin is moved and the canvas is rotated, is true only inside push and pop. So if I draw a rectangle at 0, 0, 50, 50, after this, it will be drawn in the same place as before. So this push and pop is very important because what it does is it contains the canvas state. So if I say push and make changes to the canvas and then say pop after that, all those changes are forgotten and are valid only between these two functions. So this is an important thing to remember, and using this concept, we're now going to be making a grid that is radial. So anything that we draw, instead of it being repeated on an XY axis, will be repeated on a radial axis. So let's go ahead and do that. So to draw this grid, what we're going to do is we can remove this rectangle here and we can even remove the rotate for now. We are just going to push, meaning we want to create a new canvas state. We'll translate the origin and then we'll draw a line that goes from 0, 0. I want it to be a horizontal line. So X value will increase and the Y value will stay the same. Perfect. So we have this line that goes here. So now let's say we want to rotate and draw another line, right? So we can rotate this entire canvas by 45 degrees and draw another line over here. Okay. Now if we rotate by 45 degrees again, how this rotate function works is it rotates by whatever value you've given from the previous position. So since it's already rotated by 45 and we're rotating by another 45, the canvas is totally rotated 90 degrees now. So when we draw another line, you'll see it's coming like this. And we can go ahead repeating this till we get the full thing. Now, we know that to get the full thing, we need to do this 8 times, and we've already learned how to use the for loop. So let's go ahead and do that. Instead of writing line rotate so many times, we will just say for I equals 0. Let's remember to initialize I. And I less than 8, because that will run 8 times. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I equals I plus 1. That's our counter. And we'll just add these brackets. And within the brackets, we're just going to copy these 2 lines of code, where it draws a line and then rotates. Now remember, we're still doing all this within the push and the pop, so whatever changes we're making to the canvas, they're all valid within this. So there, we already have the grid that we wanted. Now instead of a grid, let's say we want a pattern, we can actually go ahead and draw ellipses as well. We can draw an ellipse at 20, 0 with a width and a height of 20, 20. Let's see what happens. So there we have this nice repeating pattern already happening. If I want it a bit further away from the origin, I can increase the X value. There. And you can go ahead and keep doing this till we kind of get a pattern that we want and that we like. So maybe I'll draw another ellipse that is 100 away on the x-axis. And there. Now let's say we want a ellipse over here. You know, where the angle is between these 2 ellipses. We can rotate the canvas by 22.5, because that's 45 divided by 2. And draw this ellipse maybe at 70, and then we can rotate it back so that it doesn't affect any of our math. So we've rotated it by 22.5 degrees, drawn this ellipse, and then we've rotated back so that the math done by rotate 45 doesn't get affected. There. And we can even remove the line now if we don't want it to be part of our pattern. There we go. And just like before, you can start combining this with random, with different colors and shapes, and create patterns which are generative but along a radial axis this time. So in our videos, you can actually find a couple of projects explaining how you can use radial symmetry as well. So do try it out and practice this concept and have fun with it. Thank you.